My name is Maria. I am 28 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood in Northern California. When I was a little girl, I dreamed of becoming a teacher. I wanted to help children learn. I wanted to make a difference. I thought life would be simple. I thought if you worked hard and were kind, good things would come to you. But life taught me something different. I grew up in a small apartment with my mother. My father left when I was 5. I don't remember much about him, just his smell of coffee and cigarettes. My mother worked 2 jobs. She cleaned offices at night and worked at a bakery during the day. She was always tired, but she never complained. She would come home and help me with my homework. She would read me stories, even when her eyes were heavy with sleep. Education is your way out, she would tell me. Study hard, Maria. Be better than me. I promised her I would. I studied every night. I got good grades. I won a scholarship to college. The day I graduated, my mother cried. She held my face in her hands and said, "I am so proud of you." Those words gave me strength for years to come. After college, I got a job at a small elementary school in town. I taught 2nd grade. The children were 7 and 8 years old. They had bright eyes and loud voices. Every morning, they would run into my classroom and shout, "Good morning, Miss Maria." My heart would fill with joy. This was what I was meant to do. I worked at the school for 3 years. I loved my students. I stayed late to help them with reading. I bought supplies with my own money. I wanted them to succeed. But teaching didn't pay much. I lived in a tiny studio apartment. I drove an old car that broke down often. Still, I was happy. I had purpose. One evening after work, I went to get coffee at a small cafe downtown. I was grabbing papers when a man walked in. He was tall with dark hair and kind eyes. He ordered coffee and sat at the table next to mine. He noticed my stack of papers. "Are you a teacher?" he asked with a smile. His name was Carlos. He was 30 years old. He worked as a mechanic at his uncle's shop. We talked for an hour. He made me laugh. He asked about my students. He listened when I spoke. When I got up to leave, he asked, "Can I see you again?" We started dating that fall. Carlos was different from other men I had known. He brought me flowers every Friday. Not expensive roses, just simple daisies or sunflowers. He would pick me up after work, and we would drive to the beach. We would sit on the sand and talk about everything. He told me about his dreams of opening his own garage. I told him about wanting to become a principal someday. "You will," he said. "You care about those kids. That's what matters." After 8 months together, Carlos asked me to move in with him. He had a small house his grandmother left him. It had 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a garden in the back. "We could plant vegetables," he said. "You could have a room for all your schoolwork." I said yes. Living together felt natural. Carlos would wake up early and make coffee. I would pack lunches for both of us. In the evenings, we would cook dinner together. He would tell me stories about the cars he fixed. I would share funny things my students said. We were building something together. We talked about marriage. We talked about children. Everything felt possible. But then my mother got sick. She had been feeling tired for months, but she said it was just work. One day she collapsed at the bakery. The doctors found cancer in her lungs. Stage 3. The word cancer hit me like a truck. My mother, who never smoked, who worked so hard, who sacrificed everything for me. I spent every weekend at the hospital. Carlos drove me there and back. He never complained. He would wait in the car while I sat with my mother. She looked so small in the hospital bed. Her hands felt cold. "Don't worry about me," she would say. "Focus on your teaching. Focus on your life." But how could I focus? How could I think about lesson plans when my mother was dying? I started missing work. I couldn't sleep. Carlos would hold me while I cried. "We'll get through this," he whispered. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." My mother fought for 6 months. She never gave up. Even at the end, she was asking about my students. "Are they reading well?" she would ask. "Are you helping them?" 3 days before she died, she made me promise something. "Don't stop teaching," she said. "Those children need you. Promise me, Maria." I promised her. 2 days later, she was gone. The funeral was small. Just me, Carlos, a few neighbors, and people from the bakery where she worked. I stood next to her casket and felt empty. The person who believed in me most was gone. The person who sacrificed everything was gone. Carlos held my hand tight. "She's proud of you," he whispered. "She'll always be proud." After the funeral, everything changed. I couldn't concentrate at school. I would start crying in the middle of lessons. My students would stare at me with worried faces. "Are you okay, Miss Maria?" they would ask. I would wipe my eyes and say, "Yes, I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. Carlos tried to help. He cooked for me. He cleaned the house. He let me cry on his shoulder every night. But I was drowning in sadness. I felt guilty for being alive when my mother wasn't. I felt angry at the world. Why do good people suffer? Why do people who work hard get nothing in return? One evening, Carlos sat me down. "Maria," he said gently, "I think you should talk to someone. A counselor. This grief. It's too heavy to carry alone." I shook my head. "I don't need therapy," I said. "I just need time." But weeks passed, and I didn't feel better. I felt worse. At school, my principal called me into her office. Mrs. Henderson was a kind woman in her 50s. She had been teaching for 30 years. "Maria," she said, "I know you're hurting. We all know how much you loved your mother, but your students need you. They need the teacher who used to light up this classroom." I looked down at my hands. "I don't know how to be that person anymore," I said. Mrs. Henderson leaned forward. "Grief changes us," she said, "but it doesn't have to break us. Your mother wouldn't want you to give up on those children." That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red from crying. My face looked thin. I had lost weight. Carlos came up behind me and put his hands on my shoulders. "Talk to me," he said. "Please, I'm losing you, and I don't know how to help." I turned around and looked at him. This man who had been nothing but patient and kind. This man who had held me through the worst time of my life. "I'm scared," I whispered. "I'm scared that if I stop being sad, I'll forget her." Carlos cupped my face in his hands. "You will never forget her," he said. "She's part of you. She's in every lesson you teach, every child you help. But she wouldn't want you to stop living." The next week, I went to see a counselor. Dr. Sarah was a gentle woman with gray hair and kind eyes. In her office, I finally let everything out: the anger, the fear, the guilt. "I feel like I failed her," I cried. "She worked so hard to give me a good life, and look at me. I can barely function." "Grief isn't failure," Dr. Sarah said. "It's love with nowhere to go. Your mother's love for you doesn't disappear because she's gone. It lives in you. But you have to choose to carry it forward, not let it weigh you down." Slowly, week by week, I started to heal. Not completely, but enough. Enough to smile at my students again. Enough to plan lessons with care. Enough to laugh at Carlos's silly jokes. The sadness was still there, but it wasn't drowning me anymore. Spring came, and with it, new hope. I planted flowers in our back garden, the same sunflowers Carlos used to bring me. I dedicated my classroom to my mother's memory. I put her photo on my desk with the words "Education is freedom" underneath. My students asked who she was. "She was my hero," I told them. "She taught me that learning can change your life." That summer, Carlos and I got engaged. It was simple. We were sitting in our garden watching the sunset when he got down on one knee. "I want to build a life with you," he said. "I want to face whatever comes next together." The ring was small, just a simple band with a tiny diamond. It was perfect. We planned a small wedding for the following spring. Nothing fancy, just family and friends in the garden behind our house. As the date got closer, I felt excited, but also sad. My mother wouldn't be there to see me in my dress. She wouldn't be there to dance with me. But on our wedding day, something beautiful happened. Mrs. Henderson, my principal, walked me down the aisle. She had become like a mother to me over the past year. As we reached Carlos, she whispered, "Your mother is here. She's in your heart, in your strength, in your love for others." Carlos and I had a simple ceremony. We wrote our own vows. I promised to support his dreams. He promised to hold me through any storm. When we kissed, I felt my mother's love surrounding us. I felt her approval. I felt her joy. Our first year of marriage was happy, but challenging. Carlos worked long hours to save money for his own shop. I took on extra responsibilities at school. I started tutoring students after hours. The extra money helped, but we were both tired. Some evenings, we would just sit together on the couch, too exhausted to talk. But we were building something together. We were creating a life based on love and hard work. On weekends, we would work in the garden or paint rooms in our house. Small improvements, but each one made the place more ours. Then, in our second year of marriage, I got news that changed everything. I was pregnant. I stared at the test for a full minute before I believed it. Carlos was at work. I called him, and he rushed home. When I show,